Not too bad. I wasn't sure I was going to stay away there, but well, you got to be in it to win it.
Okay.
Hello again and welcome to the Tour de France. We're in the heart of Brittany all day today, starting from here in Renne, where the clouds are grey and rain is threatening, and going through to Quimper. Now, news reaching us this morning that some members of the PDM team have contracted a fever literally overnight. Nico Verhoeven is not starting. Well, let's hope that their three top men, Eric Breukink, Sean Kelly and Raul Alcala, are okay. This is the overall situation this morning. Greg LeMond in the leader's yellow jersey, 1 minute 13 seconds back is Eric Breukink. Jimoldine Abdou-Japarov from the Soviet Union is third. Miguel Indurain, Jean-Francois Bernard. Of the other riders, pushing for the top, Sean Kelly is in 6th place, Gianni Bugno 7th. Pedro Delgado, the Spaniard, is in 12th, Laurent Fignon 14th, and Claudio Chiappucci, who was 2nd last year, is slipping down a little bit at the moment. But let's have a look at the day's route. This is it, 207 kilometres, 3 bonus sprints on the way, and it could be a day again for Jimoldine Abdou-Japarov.
And the rollout this morning from Renne for the crossing of Brittany, assured of big crowds. But one rider in addition to Nico Verhoeven not starting, although he signed on, is Uwe Robb. That means the PDM are leaving this morning, less 2 riders with this mysterious illness.
I really want to save Dag and Phil for later in the race. You know, we kind of got to start to take a little chance here, because I think that Zed and Benesto, for the most part, aren't going to let a break get too much time at the start. You know, they may spend the first half of the race keeping things, you know, together, and then in the last 50, 60 kilometers, yeah, if a break goes, they're not going to be so concerned about it, because it's, you know, they'll make sure it doesn't get more than a minute or two at the end, but they're less likely to chase then and let some other teams chase that have sprinters, you know, or that want to keep the race together, like Panasonic. They took over at the end of the race yesterday, so I think that the same thing will happen today, where at the start, Zed and Benesto will take a little bit more control, and at the end of the race, the other teams will handle it. So what I'd like to do is, I want Phil and Dag, you guys just to stay back, stay in good position. Obviously, if something's, you know, going down the road real heavy, you might have to consider being in there, but I want you to conserve as much as you can until we get over that 4th category climb. And then you guys got to start to be active, okay? And in the meantime, Andy, you just do your own race the way you did yesterday. You know, you see an opportunity, you should go for it. You know, and stay up front, stay out of trouble, stay with the big guys, and watch what's going on. But make your own opportunities if you see them out there.
Well, we watch out for Dag Otto Larsson and Phil Anderson, and maybe Andy Hampsten as today's stage comes to an end. This is the result of the first sprint. Johan Museo winning the 57.5 kilometre sprint, and Jalabert was 2nd, and Abdou-Japarov 3rd, taking a 2-second bonus. That puts him now equal 2nd in the Tour de France. Bad news for PDM, it continues today. Martin Early, Jean-Paul Van Poppel, already a stage winner, are both reported now in trouble at the back of the race. At the second sprint of 100.5 kilometres, Thierry Laurent was in the lead on his own. Then, heading home the field, was Abdou-Japarov ahead of Josam Museo, and that means Abdou-Japarov now clearly 2nd in the Tour de France. But the troubles for PDM are getting worse. Martin Early and Falk Boden are behind the race now. Jean-Paul Van Poppel has abandoned. They've now lost 3 riders today, and Eric Breukink is reported to have contracted the fever as well, but for the time being at least is still riding along in the peloton. Well, let's join the action now. The riders are still in the region of 45 kilometres from the finishing line. They're coming up towards the last sprint of the day at Goran. It comes at 163.5 kilometres. We're just coming to the end of what has been a long chase for the peloton, 64 kilometres of chasing in fact, because Thierry Laurent, who won that second sprint, has just been picked up. He went clear at 83 kilometres, and he was caught at 147. So it looks now, Paul, as though the sprinters will try and clean up in this third and final sprint of the day.
Well, they will try and do that, but the sprint may well not be a sprint at all, because there are lots of attacks going all the time here. This looks like Venstre from the Buckler team. There are a couple of riders away. One rider who just pulled clear was Soren Lilholt. He's being chased by two other riders, Anselmo Fuerte and Michel Vermont. They're just in front of the main field here as the attacks are really coming thick and fast today.
Well, while we look at these pictures, Paul, what do you think has hit the PDM team? Because there was no warning of this at all, and the team absolutely in big trouble now.
Well, the team really is decimated. I can only think that one possible explanation is there must be something that they ate for it to hit all the riders so quickly. If it was some kind of a flu or a cold virus, it would have hit them at a more of a staggered basis. But every one of them to go down today like this, I'm sure it must have been something in the food.
The riders then continuing their way across Brittany. The crowds today, although they don't appear here to be too big, are absolutely enormous along the road today, and there is a superb crowd waiting for the riders in what should be a superb finish, Paul. At last we've got a great finish, long, straight, clean road.
No problems on the way in at all. This is Lilholt still at the front here. The other two riders have been brought back into the fold, but you can see the whole field behind him trying to pull him back.
Ariostia, Once and Lotto, the three teams here. Panasonic, who've done a lot of work today, Paul, to keep this race together. They were the main team to chase down Thierry Laurent for the best part of 60 kilometres.
Well, they're still chasing that elusive stage victory. They want Olaf Ludwig to try and win a stage, but all the work they did, they know they can no longer keep the race together. They use a lot of work, a lot of energy trying to bring back that group, that lone breakaway of Thierry Laurent when he had 4 minutes. They were the only team that contributed to that chase, and now I think they're having to pay for it.
Well, while we watch these pictures, we've had a lot of phone calls from you talking about riders' diet. So, Paul, can you tell us a little bit about what riders eat and how soon before the race?
Well, most riders, the diet has changed a great deal recently. In fact, most riders have gone away from the traditional steak and rice that they used to eat very few years ago. Now it's a lot more spaghetti, omelettes, lighter type food, and probably a lot of cereals, yogurt, and dried fruits. So they usually go for that about 3 hours before the race starts so that they can be digested. And some riders like Phil Anderson, for instance, once they get into the race situation, they don't actually eat any more solid food. They just take on glucose drinks. And if you can survive that kind of a diet, well, then it works very well because the food and the energy goes straight into the system.
Right, well, you see my Paul's been explaining the diet of riders in the Tour. The four names of the leaders coming up: Maurizio Fondriest, Melchior Mauri, Lely, and Sami Morels. They're the four leaders, and a very strong combination it is too. This is a class breakaway, believe me. Lely third in the Tour of Italy. The man we're looking at here now, Mauri, winner of the Tour of Spain. Sami Morels, winner of the Grand Prix of Frankfurt, I think it was this year. And the other rider in the breakaway is Fondriest, former world champion. That's a good move. And this is the chase group coming up, and it looks like it might be Bontempi joining them.
Well, here's another sprinter who can't sprint very well these days, and that's Guido Bontempi. He was unable to get up there very much yesterday, and this group is going away. And Bauer is the man that Ochowicz has been wanting to do a good ride recently, and Bauer has slipped into a little move here that is chasing those initial four riders.
So Steve Bauer joins the back. The team talk that we were privileged to witness this morning, and it looks as though Bauer is looking for the stage win today. We're rather lucky to get our cameras inside the room today, you know, with the Motorola team, because they don't like to talk in front of the cameras about what they plan to do, especially if it doesn't work out or they actually make a big mistake. And if it does work out, well, of course, they'll feel very happy tonight. Well, Bauer is looking for the victory. He's come across to this leading group. It's establishing quite nicely at the front, and we've got some very strong riders here. Notably, none of the big leaders, though. Stand by for the sprint. We're entering Gourin now. And that is Bontempi in third place. And I think it's Lely. What a rider he's turning out to be this year. Best rookie of the Tour de France this year. Bontempi at the front. Interestingly enough, Abdu Japarov is not here, but he might be shortly because that bunch is not very far behind. The Tashkent Tornado, but he's too late. as they come through. So the bonuses go to the lesser men. Bontempi, I think it was, who led them through the line there. There's Rudy Dons at the front. Abdu Japarov having one of those rare breaks from the sprint. But he knew that nobody in that front group was going to damage his position overall at all. He's now purely and simply second in the race and closing in with these time bonuses on Greg LeMond.
So it goes on, huh?
To enter our Motorola Europa Bike and Phone Prize package, just nominate who you think will be leading the tour on the 22nd of July and you'll be in the draw. Call the number on your screen by midnight Saturday and leave your nomination name and phone number. Even if you miss out, you're also in the draw for a trip to Paris courtesy of UTA Air France and an 8-day cycle tour from Outdoor Travel. Keep watching our coverage for more details.
Welcome back. We're heading towards Quimper at a high rate of knots now. There's the 10-kilometre banner. This is the chasing group of 4 riders have escaped. And these 4 riders are Nico Emmons, Phil Anderson, Brian Holm and Michel Dernice. Now this morning our cameras were in the bedrooms of the Motorola team for the team tactic talk from Jim Ochowicz. And this is what he said about the closing kilometres.
And if at the end, we're all together, you guys got to help Phil to try to get away at the end. We're not going to win a field sprint here, but we can at least, if we can get Phil in a little group, I think he's got the best legs and the most consistent legs right now. So we got to take some chances with him. And Phil, you got to talk to the guys a little bit, and if you need them, you got to tell them you need them, and get them up front. You guys got to go up front with him. At the end of the race, it's not like he can do it himself. He needs a couple of wheels to ride off of, and he needs maybe to get him a little bit off the front, leave some gaps, that kind of stuff. You got to play with a little bit. I think there's a good chance that he can go in the last kilometers of the bike race, but he can't do it alone. He definitely needs 2, 3, even 4 guys up there to help.
Well, it could be that Jim's tactics will work out today. Phil Anderson is in this leading group. He went a little bit earlier than I think Jim would have liked. In fact, he went at around 25 kilometres on the finish. The gap has been up to 1 minute and 32, and I think Paul is now inside a minute.
Well, it's just come down. The last time check I got there was 51 seconds, and this is the reason why we've got the Buckler team riding at the front and the Lotto team. They want to bring it together for a bunch sprint. Johan Museo chasing that bunch sprint after the little aggravation he had with Abdu Japarov a few days earlier, and also the Buckler team would like to bring it together for Van der Aarden or for Jelle Neidem to try and take the sprint.
Well, as we watch the leaders here, and the clouds threatening rain once more, but it hasn't come down today yet. These are the sad pictures of the PDM team today. This is Martin Early. He's just abandoned the Tour de France. He's joined his teammate Jean-Paul Van Poppel in the broom wagon today, and they also have lost Nico Verhoeven and Uwe Rab, who failed to start, and the mystery illness has certainly taken its toll. Well, look at this, Paul. This breakaway is still tapping through. What do you think about Phil Anderson? I mean, he's got 3 riders here who could possibly beat him in the sprint.
Well, the thing is, it's better to be in a group of 3 riders, with a group of 4 riders going for the sprint, than being in a big, massive sprint for the line. But it looks as if this might just be over for the riders, because the gap is coming down rapidly now. The time gap on these riders is now 30 seconds. So it depends on whether they can get just into the streets of Quimper and maybe stay clear. But look how long this peloton is at the moment. You can just see how fast they're going in pursuit of the 4 breakaways. The Lotto boys giving everything because they really want to get those breakaways back into the fold. Time's coming down all the time. That last check we had of 45 seconds has come down again to 36, as you can see there. And everybody at the front here again, the Lotto boys with the Buckler boys in there trying to bring everybody back together.
These are the escapers around the big roundabout on the outskirts of Quimper now. Dernice, every time our cameras go back, is at the back, but no, he's going through. I think that's just a look at the draw. All 4 riders reporting to be working well together. The best placed rider in this escape is Nico Emmons, 32nd overall, 7 minutes 35 seconds behind Greg LeMond. And then comes Brian Holm, he's lying 57th in the Tour, Phil Anderson 66th, and Michel Derni's 83rd.
Well, these riders of the Bainfield now just coming around the roundabout that the breakaway went round just recently there, and you can see every time they come to one of these roundabouts, there's a big split. The front riders now going under the 5 kilometres to go banner. They'll probably be seen now by the chasing bunch now as they come into the streets of Quimper towards that fantastic bunch sprint, which I think we're going to have now with a straight line all the way down the side of the river.
Well, 3 times the Tour de France has started from Quimper, but we've never had a stage finish here, and we're seeing the biggest crowd I've seen as a stage finish this year in the Tour de France. And you'll see them too very shortly over the last 2 kilometres. They must be 15 deep. There's the main field, under 5 kilometres to go, and the Lotto boys are driving the train from Uzeu. Uzeu will be resting about 4 or 5 men back, hoping to see daylight and the sprint finish for him. He knows maybe the finish here would suit him down to the ground. 28 seconds now, and you won't hold them back now, Paul.
Well, they may not. All they need now is for 1 or 2 of the riders from Lotto to start to suffer a little bit and then stop to chase. You can see there's no organised chase by the Lotto riders there. There's a Lotto rider on the front that looks like Jan Nevens. There's another one 3 or 4 back. But I think the natural acceleration of the bunch as we come in towards the finish will pull these riders back into the fold. But it's not over yet. A race isn't won until you've crossed the line, and we never can tell.
Well, that's Benjamin van Itterbeek, the Belgian champion, sitting on the inside. They start to go down, which is quite a steep hill this, and one of the Lotto boys pushed his teammates out in front there to do some more work. And that was Jan Nevens getting the benefit of the push. Not allowed, of course, but if the referees don't see, I guess you can't do much about it. And here's the outskirts of Quimper now, and now you're beginning to see the crowds that are witnessing the arrival of the Tour. It's not, in fact, been here at all since 1965, which I find absolutely amazing, because Brittany is the mecca of French cycling, and they really love their cycle racing here. You must have spent quite a lot of time here, Paul, as a cyclist yourself.
Well, this is one of the hearts of cycling. There are 2 major cycling areas in France, the North and Brittany. A lot of the best cyclists in the world have come from Brittany, and that's where the capital is, I think, of cycling in France at the moment. The gap obviously coming down the same roundabout we saw the breakaway before. It must be around about 15 to 20 seconds. I didn't get a proper time check then, but it's going to be very close.
Well, that's a lovely picture. You'd think they were in a cycling stadium there for a moment, wouldn't you? Here they are, though, threading their way into the city streets of Quimper. Ronan Pentek, who rides the Tour de France, lives in this region too. Bernardini, of course, comes not too far away. And he's now the technical advisor of the Tour de France, a former 5-time winner. Phil Anderson now, he must have mixed thoughts, and he's going for it. Oh, no, I thought he was moving ahead there, Paul, because I really expect Phil will try a loner.
Well, Phil will try and surprise him, I think, but he's probably, the form he's got at the moment, he can probably take each one of these riders in the sprint, because I think they've all worked very hard to stay away. If they stay away, it's a pity we can't just look back down the road there. The gap must still be reasonable, because the red Tour de France car is still in there, and as soon as we see that Tour de France car move out of the way, then we'll know that the bunch is very close behind them. For the moment, it must still be around the 20-second mark, so it's still workable.
Phil Anderson, surprisingly, has not won a stage in the Tour de France since 1982. In 1983, he wore the leader's yellow jersey. Look at this, 2 kilometres to go, and this could be a finish. Now, we've had 2 superb finishes this last week in the Tour de France. Etienne de Wilde, when he won at Dijon, he just scraped in ahead of the field, he hung on. And then we had another great finish yesterday when Ribeiro literally hung on by the skin of his pants ahead of Jalabert and Konishev. And now can they do it again? Because the peloton are under the 2 kilometres to go banner, and these 4 riders out in front for the last 25 kilometres, trying now to take the stage in Quimper.
It's going to be so close on the line, it might all come together in the last 500 metres. You can see the chase is not quite as organised now. The Carrera riders coming up to start leading the sprint out. Perhaps Zafarov, Johan Museo is in there. A little bit further back also, Eric van der Aarden. These are the front riders. There's Anderson at the back. They're waiting for his opportunity to try and surprise them. Now's the time when they can't start to play around, because the bunch is just so close. This is Brian Holm at the front there.
Well, somebody's accelerated right on the front. And the attack has gone. I think it's Nico Amons who's gone. And now Anderson, I would have thought, was playing that one. They've opened the sprint very, very early. There's still a long way to go. And the reason being is because they can't afford to delay it. Under the 1 kilometre kite, Anderson has the perfect launching pad here. He's tucked nicely in the back, and Jim Ochowicz won't believe this. All the things he told the team to do, they've read it to the letter. And if Anderson won the stage, it will have worked out absolutely brilliantly for him today. And our camera's privileged to be in at that meeting. Anderson waiting for the last possible minute. He's checking the bunch position.
Anderson making sure where the field is. It's very dangerous because every time he looks round like this, a rider might move in front of him. And I've seen Anderson fall off a few times like this. Derni's obviously worried because he knows he can't win the sprint. He's tried to jump away. He's going to try another little attack here. Let's be careful for Anderson. He's got to react to Derni's. He's going down the left-hand side. Straight away, we've got Nico Edmonds reacting. Anderson in an ideal position as we come up to the last 500 metres.
Well, Anderson ready right. Derni's has gone too early. And now Anderson's put himself behind Brian Holm in the perfect position for the sprint. And we don't know where the peloton is, but it must be only yards behind this group. The camera's in the wrong position. Now we'll know, as Anderson's on the left of our picture and going for it now. Oh, and he took Holm a little bit. He might get penalised for that. And it's Evans taking on the far. Anderson's gone clear now. Phil Anderson is going to bring to an end the Motorola's day. They said it all in the meeting, and Anderson wins on the line. 2 hands in the air. Anderson, Amons, Holm and Derni's on the line. And Abdu Japarov rounds off the day in Quimper with a sprint finish ahead of Ludwig and Museo. Well, they didn't look as though they were going to survive, but they did. And Phil Anderson takes his first stage win since 1982.
Well, a superb sprint finish by Phil Anderson, as good as his word. He's waited 10 years for his next stage win in the Tour de France. Let's hope he doesn't have to wait that long again. Immediately after the finish, in the chaos, Adrian Swift talking to Phil.
How do you feel, Phil? Fantastic.
Okay. Good job. Hey, easy, easy. Okay.
How do you feel, Phil? Not too bad. I wasn't sure it was going to stay away there, but well, you got to be in it to win it.
Okay, yeah.
How hard was it holding him off at the end? Oh, not too bad. Early in the break, I was doing most of the work, so you know, towards the end, I eased up a bit. Shared it pretty equally, and then you know, I felt I was the strongest there, but still, you don't know. You never really know until the finish line, you know. How important is the stage win for you? It's pretty important. Believe me. Feel good? Yeah. Feel great.
The joys of being the stage winner. Let's have a look at today's result. Phil Anderson winning in that 4-man sprint finish ahead of Nico Amons. In 3rd place, Brian Holm. In 4th place, Michel Derni's. And the super sprinter from Tashkent bringing home the rest of the race for 5th place, Jamodeline Abdu Japarov. Well, after the chaos died down, our own Paul Sherwin caught up with Phil Anderson, and now you might be able to hear the interview better.
Phil, that just went to Ochowicz's plans from this morning. The team talk said that you were the man to go for the stage. You must be quite pleased.
Yeah, sometimes it works out like that, you know. For every 10 times it doesn't, one time it works, well, it's worth it, because really a victory like this is fantastic, you know. It's one of the biggest victories of my career, so it's great to win a stage like that.
Finally, there's a lot of people watching in Australia every night. Have you got a few special words for the Australian viewers?
Well, just to keep following me in the sport, and hope I can win again.
Let's have a look at the GC as it is tonight. Greg LeMond is still the leader of the Tour de France. In 2nd place now, Abdu Japarov, by virtue of his great sprinting today, and that pushes Eric Breukink back to 3rd slot. But the 3 top men from PDM all finished in the big bunch, and for the time being at least, they've kept their high overall positions. It's all a question of now as to how they feel by the end of the night.
Right here, right now, there is no other place I want to be.
Well, you might think that winning the stage in the Tour de France is the hard bit. It really is the highlight of any professional cyclist's career. But for the next 15 minutes that follows a stage winner, just look at this as Adrian Swift tried to keep up with Phil Anderson.
During the 15 minutes that follow a stage win in the Tour de France comes the adulation that every cyclist dreams of all his career. A kiss never meant as much as this. For Anderson, the $12,000 prize money for the stage win is certainly not as important as the prestige of a stage win in the Tour de France. There are 1,000 accredited press people here, and they all want a piece of our champion. But this is a French event, and his big moment is on the French network Entendeur, Le Skippy as he's known, watched by at least 10 million people in France alone. And after the press, the medical. Cycling was one of the first sports to introduce drug testing, and Anderson will spend the next 15 minutes in here giving his sample. But while Quimper celebrates an Australian victory, for Phil Anderson, the man himself, no such celebrations. Tomorrow on the road, 2 big hills, and ahead of him, 246 kilometres.
That's right, a tough day indeed tomorrow. 246 kilometres from Quimper down to Saint-Herblain. And for the PDM team, it's a day they may not even face up to. The rumour tonight is that all of the team are ill. 5 of them are now out of the race. The other 4 are complaining of being sick, and they may not even make the start tomorrow. But we'll end this on a very happy note indeed. A stage winner from Australia in the Tour de France. Phil Anderson has done it. What a great day for us back home, and for us here from the SBS team. I can tell you, we'll have a few drinks tonight. Goodbye from France.
You're unbelievable. En région parisienne, votre vainqueur, l'Australien